So thank you very much for this invitation and for this conference. I'm very glad to share with you this research I'm going to present. I am Jacinthe Bessiere. I am professor of sociology at the University of Toulouse, Jean Jaurès, at ISTIA, CERTOP, that is a school and department of tourism and food and hospitality in this University of Toulouse, Jean Jaurès. So it's a real pleasure to share this research about food crops on islands, new resources for more sustainable tourism development, and the example of Bali in Indonesia. First, I would like to give you some little words about our research program that we conducted since 2015 with the University of Udayana in Bali, in Indonesia, and we collaborate about Balinese food, cultures, and traditions. So through this research, we try to understand and we try to do the best to introduce food culture, food heritage within the logic and within the politics of development of the island. And then this research permits also to support research mobilities between Bali and France with students or researchers. So, concerning context and issues of this presentation, I can say that tourism remains a major economic activity in Indonesia, particularly in Bali, and food is the central component of the tourism phenomenon, not only because tourists eat several times a day, but also because it's privileged access route to the culture and history of the region visited, and food can allow tourists to understand the culture, the local culture, and the history of the area. In this context, we work about the process of patrimonialization, heritageization also, that now extends to food, cooking, and eating habits, and promotes also all the conditions for a strategic redeployment of economic and social actors. So the objectives of these contributions is to is to ask the economic and socio-cultural issues underlying the tourism development of local food cultures applied to the island of Bali. So we want to show that food heritage can be a lever, can be a means to participate to development and tourism development. 4 points for this contribution. First, I will speak rapidly about main theoretical contributions mobilized in this research. Second, the field, the methodology. Third, the first inventory of Balinese food culture, and also analysis and results of our research. So concerning the main contributions and theoretical contributions mobilized, we have found lots of reference, lots of studies and researches about the tourism function of food culture. Poulain, Bessiere, Thibert, etc. Gave us an understanding and give us lots of analysis about the function, the role of food in the tourist experience at a time when travel and mobility are increasingly seen as social invariants, democratized and integrated by everyone. Tourism and food remain closely linked. So lots of books, lots of reference can permit us to understand this link, this interaction and interrelations between food and culture. During the trip, we can also analyze the role of food. Food is everywhere during travel, before departure, during the trip, but also after the trip. First, prior to departure. Before departure, we can take the notion and the concept of environmental bubble. This environmental bubble includes the tourist norms, the social and the cultural values linked to routine, in this case food. In this perspective, the tourist harbors conscious or unconscious predispositions that show tendencies of neophobia or neophilia, of tastes, customs, or perceptions. So before departure, tourists have this environmental bubble that permits him to adapt or not to the food culture. During the trip, in the second plan, during the trip, places and activities of integration of food are very present during the trip. Food helps tourists to see the limits of their own food culture. Meal structures, corporal techniques, use, table etiquette, food codes, meal times, food outlets, hygiene rules are all elements upon which the limits of own food culture, of one's own food culture, and thanks to this the meeting with the other food culture, we can know our divergence, convergence with the food culture of one's host. For example, we can take the example of city dwellers. Their consumption of farm and local products contributes to the discovery of a peasant identity, agricultural, for example, identity, and similarly and conversely to a better understanding of one's own urban food. So food is a real component of the trip. After the journey, after the trip, we can make the food souvenirs as a real interpretation of the foreign world and the day-to-day world. And the food souvenirs that are shared and tasted among friends can also prolong the act of distinction and the social differentiation after the trip, after holidays. Though these food souvenirs have got a very big importance to materialize the link between here and there, and by distributing the flavors, the taste and imagination, but also lots of perception about holiday. We can also, in the first part of this contribution, speak about food heritage. What is food heritage? What is culture heritage? And what is food culture? That designates the set of material and immaterial gastronomic elements linked to production, so agricultural sphere, to the agricultural sector, and to a collective regional heritage. This heritage includes all processed and non-processed farming products, knowledge, know-how, small-scale farming production, as well as any object of knowledge linked to the set of values. So this is a large and wide definition of food heritage, from production to consumption, with also all elements of processing, knowledge and know-how concerning all the food. So we can say that the definition is based on a sociological approach to strategic action, but also a socio-anthropological approach that articulates the different aspects of the social gastronomic arena that Poulain said in lots of reference. Also, I can add this point, which impacts for tourism areas. When we work about food culture, food heritage, there is an impact, a big impact on tourism areas. Food culture, food heritage can be a lever for local and territorial development from an economic point of view, from a cultural point of view. Concerning the economic valorization, for example, there is an impact on agri-food resources, agricultural sphere, agricultural production, but also craft resources. Concerning the cultural valorization, we observe an impact on territories, on cohesion, on identity and cultural social groups. So it's food heritage can give lots of value, economic value, but also cultural and social value to a territory. In this slide, we can find the field and the methodology of our research. So Bali is our field study. Bali, just a little presentation. Of course, Bali, it's an Indonesia's main tourist destination. More than 3 million tourists per year. In this island, tourism is a very important activity, economic activity. More than 50% of Balinese people work in the tourism industry. And we observe also the emergence of so-called mass tourism and degradation of the environment, but also heritage. Over-consumption of resources, over-tourism is also present. So the sustainable tourism is a real issue, is a real stake for the island. And sustainable tourism can be a new alternative for tourism development. So our research about food culture and food heritage is included into this sustainable tourism. New resources, how this food culture, this Balinese food culture can be a new resource for more sustainable tourism development. So Bali has lots of organization, lots of activities and valorization about food heritage. Bali has an important and very interesting food heritage. We can see on this slide, and we have chosen to do qualitative inquiry in 2050 until 2021, and we have conducted semi-directive interviews, participant observation, but also informal discussion. Concerning the interviews, qualitative interviews, we have met some tourists, tourist guides, local population, food social professionals also, and we have tried to understand their role in Balinese food heritage construction. We want to show that the food heritage construction is a social construction with lots of stakeholders and lots of strategy of valorization. We have done a first inventory of Balinese food culture. That is an example, but that is a grid I can propose you with this slide. We have done an inventory of products, of recipes, and restaurant place, for example. Concerning products, for example, we have shown the identification of the element, the characteristic of the element, the place of this element in Balinese society, the state of this element, and the viability, the threat, the safeguard politics or valuation measures. So we have tried to we have tried to list how the food product, can be characterized. So we have done this type of document for rice, coffee, cocoa, coconut, spices, durian, and mangosteen. Recipes have been listed also with the main characteristics of the recipe, the place of the recipe in Balinese society, and tourism valorization of this recipe. We have done this type of document for satelilik, babi guling, ayam and bebek, lots of recipes, Balinese specific recipes. The restaurant place has been listed also, and we have described the place in the daily life of this restaurant place, the type of menu served, and the place of the restaurant in the tourism development issues. That is essentially and specifically Warung, that is a tourist local restaurant. That is an example of a document about rice, for example, that is a characterization of the rice in this type of document. Recipe also for ayam and bebet betutu, that is, for example, recipes with ducks and rice, and then the warung, that inventory document about this restaurant place, especially warung. The first analysis is very interesting to analyze the role and the function of tourism and in the food experience, but also the role and the function of food in the tourism experience. And we can say that tourism can be and can have a wide role of preservation, transmission of Balinese food cultures, and it can boost the local social organization. Balinese food heritage is an integral part of the family heritage, visible aspect within the ceremonies above all, but also this food heritage is a real pride of the inhabitants. Concerning the transmission issues, that is a very important point also to highlight for this contribution, the transmission, especially for the new generation, but also by oral transmission. So you can read the verbatims, and we can read different speak of people we met, but transmission is quite really important for the inhabitants. And tourism can be a support for maintaining food traditions, because tourism allows valorization, allows awareness also. That is another slide about awareness. Tourism can permit the emergence of awareness and forms of cultural appropriation in the organization of Balinese tourism supply, economic development of Balinese agri-food, and handicraft resources of tourism industry. And this we can observe, however, that Balinese food, which can be penalized by a lack of hygiene, according to tourist representations, with source of suspicion, for example, that is a lack that is an inconvenient. But this tourism with food culture can be an improvement and can improve the food supply for and by tourism, thanks to innovation, for example. Tourism is also a new breath for Balinese food, and permits to develop, it permits to invent, it permits to innovate and to create new projects. There is an interest of some tourists in discovering the traditional food heritage, so projects can improve, can develop about this food, and agriculture, processing, but also distribution and consumption are completely linked to give new project and global project about food. We can also show the opportunity for media coverage and prescription around Balinese food products at the holiday destination, but also at the tourist original place of residence when they return from their holidays. So after the trip, Balinese food, heritage Balinese food, can be present in the experience, in the day life experience. That is also an opportunity for dynamization in the sectors of agricultural production, crafts, small and medium-sized agri-food companies, an opportunity for innovation. Though we have showed that food heritage is a lever, is a very important component of this of development. So in the conclusion, we can show the stakes and perspectives. For example, the knowledge of food culture is important, is essential to improve tourist hospitality. It can also contribute to make easier the access to food culture, and it can contribute to promote Balinese products export. So we can find some impact, economic but also social and cultural impacts from a local point of view and an international point of view, improving, making easier and promoting the Balinese culture all over the world, for example. The knowledge of this food culture from data collection, for example, ethnological, historical, technological, biological data, is also a means to work about promotion. This knowledge can be promoted in the scientific sphere, professional sphere, large public, within, but also outside the country, like a media. So that contributes to the promotion, the global promotion. Also, the education and the training is important in this research, because food culture must be transmitted, and with adult training, technical training in the hospitality and tourism, but also agricultural training that can be proposed to the local population and inhabitants. Also, the tourism production is impacted. Yes, when we speak about food culture and food heritage, tourism can take into account this knowledge, creating networking, creation of tourism and gastronomic products, for example, festival, and so on. So food culture can be integrated to the different spheres and the different world of the society. So thank you for your attention. I hope my presentation has been enough clear to discuss now. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Professor Jacinthe Bessiere. And now, if anybody has some question. Personally, I have a question about the role of local production in the different recipes of the Balinese food.
Je ne sais pas si vous m'entendez.
Ah. Oui, vous m'entendez? Do you hear me?
Le micro est coupé.
Ah. Sorry, désolé, le micro était coupé.
Ah d'accord, pardon, je ne vous entendais pas. Vous m'avez bien entendu?
Sorry. On vous a applaudi, mais du coup, vous n'avez pas entendu. Désolé.
Ce n'est pas grave, absolument pas.
So, I have one question about the Balinese food, the Balinese recipes, on the role of local production to cook this recipes. Do Balinese people need to import some crops, or most of the recipes are covered by the local production?
Yeah, thank you for this question. In Bali, lots of products come from other countries because of they need lots of production for tourism, for example, for tourist practices and tourist demand and needs. But concerning the local traditional recipe and the local traditional product, we have found with the inventory above all, we have found lots of production and ancient and very old production we can take to propose new supply. So this research shows that Balinese can support and can create food project only with their own production. We have shown Balinese and Balinese actors that it's possible to do development, local development and tourism development with their own production, with their own farming production. For example, rice, for example, ducks, for example, lots of fruits, vegetables, etc. And it's not completely useful to take only international product in their tourist supply. So we have visited, for example, lots of farms in the Balinese island, and this farm can propose more and more products for the tourism industry.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Any other question?
Jonas, I have a question. Professor, I'm Georgie from Fiji. So my question is on is there a look on the organic side of, like most of the tourists that come into Fiji, they prefer, like they look at the organic, like if the food is organic or not. Is this the same case in Bali?
I don't understand very well, excuse me. Sorry.
Like the tourists, they come, they have their food preferences, they have their own food preferences. So like some of the hotels, they are growing their own food because the tourists want to see where the cabbage comes from, where the salad, so the tourists are not buying. I mean, the hotels are not buying. They're having their own gardens, so they could show the clients, the tourists, that this is where your salad comes from. They can actually show. Is that a similar move in Bali?
Okay, I'm not sure I completely understand your question, but I understand you say that in Fiji, tourists have their preference for the international food, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, in Bali it's the same. So lots of resorts, lots of hotels, lots of tourism industry propose international food, for example, occidental food. So it's quite the work consists in the politic of sustainable tourism, for example, consists in encourage more and more tourism industry to to try to collect local products to encourage farm and to encourage agricultural local sector. So it's quite difficult because the mass tourism and the big increasing tourism industry is quite big and is difficult to answer correctly to the mass demand and the big demand. So it's quite difficult, but our research shows that it's a condition to keep the heritage, to keep the culture, and tourism can permit to valorize and to safeguard this food culture. I think can be a balance. We can find a balance between international food and local food. I think we can encourage and we can support the family farming, for example.